And we're live. Hello and welcome to our virtual Lunch and Learn, What's New in Studio 5000, Logix Designer. My name is Rachel Green. I'm the Digital Communications Specialist here at McNaughton-McKay Electric Company. Presenting for us today will be Amy Jenkins, Systems Engineer out of our Columbus, Ohio location. We'll be getting started shortly, but we'd like to allow a few minutes for attendees to join the live stream. We know this might be a new experience for some of our viewers, and we want to give everyone a chance to get acclimated. As you join, be sure to tell us where you're tuning in from in the comments. Robert Smith, I see you out there. Thanks for joining. We're both joining from our homes at this time due to the local stay-at-home orders. And we're grateful for the technology that's made it possible for us to host this session live here on YouTube. Since you aren't able to attend in person today, we're really thankful for live streaming and that you're able to join us here now. Thank you for your time today. And it's great that you're able to come to us from the comfort and safety of your homes and offices. Looks like we might have some audio issues, so we're going to give it just a couple minutes here. Okay, this is in fact our very first live stream, so we're really happy to have you all here as a part of what we hope becomes a regular event. Hi, Al Ponce. Thanks for joining from Charlotte. Be sure to subscribe to our channel so that you'll see notifications of upcoming live events like this one in the future. Anthony Henry, thanks for joining. Nathan Nicholas. All right, for anyone just joining us, I'm Rachel Green. I'll be looking for questions if you have them throughout the presentation today. Amy Jenkins will be walking us through the features currently available on the latest versions of Studio 5000 Logix Designer. We'll wait until the end of her presentation to answer any of your questions, but feel free to drop your questions in the comment section at any point during the presentation. I'll be making notes of them. Hi, David, Christopher Can. Hi, Greg, Dino Porter. All right, it looks like we're getting quite a number of attendees now, so I think we'll get started. I do want to mention if you have any questions afterwards that we are unable to address in our Q&A section, please feel free to reach out to your Mac and Mac contact, or please visit our website, www.mc-nc.com, and you'll find your local branch contact information there to reach out. All right, I think we are good to get started. Amy, I'll pass it over to you now.
Thank you, Rachel. Hi, everyone. For those of you who didn't hear, my name is Amy Jenkins, and I'm a systems engineer supporting the McNaughton-McKay Electric Company branches in Central Ohio and their customers. I specialize in PLCs and HMIs. Welcome to our first ever virtual Lunch and Learn via YouTube Live. I am sorry that McNaughton-McKay was not able to provide lunch today, but I hope that you found something good to eat while watching. If my stomach growls, I apologize in advance. So during this next hour, I plan to give you a Studio 5000 update, focusing mostly on Logix Designer, our Logix Controller programming software. Like Rachel mentioned, if you have any questions during this presentation, please add them to the chat window, and we'll try to answer as many questions as I can at the end of this session. So before I start right in on Studio 5000, I thought it might be helpful to give a brief overview of what software package to choose based on the controller you have. Sometimes this can be a little bit confusing. We'll start with Connected Components Workbench, also known as CCW. This software package programs Rockwell's small standalone controllers, the Micro 800s. The Micro 800 part numbers start with a 2080. They are a great migration option for those old discontinued Pico controllers and MicroLogix controllers. Connected Components Workbench software is a free download right from the Rockwell Automation website. It is also used to configure PowerFlex drives and to program PanelView 800 HMIs. If you notice, there's a number of releases available. When looking at the software packages, you want to choose the version based on your Windows operating system requirements, the specific features available in that version, and the firmware that your controller requires. RSLogix 500 is the software that can be used with SLIC controllers and MicroLogix controllers. SLIC part numbers start with a 1746 and 1747, and MicroLogix controllers start with a 1761 through 1766 part number, with several of those being already discontinued. RSLogix micro software only supports MicroLogix controllers. RSLogix 5000 supports older compact and ControlLogix controllers. Compact Logix part numbers start with a 1768 and 1769, and ControlLogix part numbers start with 1756. You do have to verify which software version your particular controller will support. You can go to the Rockwell Automation Product Compatibility and Download Center website, or PCDC for short, to determine version compatibility. When you type in the part number of the controller you have, it will show you what versions are supported by that controller. This software package only goes up to version 20. Starting with version 21, Rockwell changed the name of the Logix controller programming software. It is now called Studio 5000 Logix Designer. Every version release features enhancements and improvements made to the software experience. We are currently at version 32. Again, you have to verify which software your particular controller will support. Logix Designer is only a component of Studio 5000. Studio 5000 includes many more applications. Studio 5000 is a suite of design and development tools for building your control system. With Architect, you design and build your system framework. With Logix Designer, you configure and program your controller. With View Designer, you configure and program your PanelView 5000 HMI. With Application Code Manager, you build and maintain control objects and projects in a repository. I'm going to touch on each of these components just to give you a little background of their capabilities. Studio 5000 Architect. For those of you familiar with Integrated Architecture Builder, also known as IAB, you know that you can build the hardware framework of your control system. And the IAB software has the tools built in to ensure that you do not make any mistakes, to ensure you have the appropriate network bandwidth to support all of the devices in your system, and it also creates a bill of material for you. Rockwell Automation has taken this one step further. You can now export this IAB project and import it into Studio 5000 Architect. Architect is Rockwell's tool to support system-wide capabilities that reduces the complexity and time to develop a control system. You can create your controller and HMI projects with the hardware components that were imported from IAB, or add components by selecting devices with the easy-to-use drag-and-drop graphical interface. You can drag and drop content from the bundled Plant PAX library, including add-on instructions, user-defined data types, global objects, and faceplates. Architect reduces the tools needed to create initial control and visualization projects. It can also improve time to market for projects by exchanging control hardware data with typical engineering tools like ePlan and AutoCAD. Logix Designer, you all know, is the single programming environment for all Logix controllers. Studio 5000 View Designer is the design environment for the PanelView 5000 family of operator terminals. It is included with Studio 5000 Mini and above, and supports Logix controllers version 27 and above. A key driver for this software component was enhanced integration with Logix to significantly reduce the time it takes to develop a system. The pre-configured banner, alarm, and diagnostic screens reduce your design time since there's no development required to utilize them. Logix-based alarms reduces alarm configuration required in the HMI. The add-on graphics capability allows you to reuse screens and graphics tied to Logix structures. With Logix shared tags and extended tag properties, there's no need to create HMI tags in your HMI project. And scalable vector graphics automatically adjust objects and screens to any terminal size. Studio 5000 Application Code Manager is an engineering design tool that enables more efficient project development with libraries of reusable code. You can create modular objects with customizable configuration parameters. A single library object can contain aspects of Logix Designer, FactoryTalk View, FactoryTalk Alarms and Events, and FactoryTalk Historian. A librarian can either create these libraries themselves, or they can leverage Rockwell Automation's pre-built libraries like PlantPAX and Machine Builders libraries. It eliminates the need of custom-built tools for managing code generation and handles all version control. Now, let's focus on version 31 and 32 enhancements in Studio 5000 Logix Designer. Version 31 has been out since 2018. There were some key enhancements made to the software, and we're going to highlight those in future slides, but for now, a summary. With version 31, you get a common look and feel across all of the Studio 5000 applications. They've modernized all of the programming language editors and improved workflows for multi-monitors, tab views, quick navigation. They've identified the clear state and identification of errors. They added Logix tag-based alarming, and they added safety instructions for the Kinetix 5700 drives. Version 32 has been out since 2019. Again, I'll be focusing on the key enhancements made to the software in future slides, but for now, here's a summary. With version 32, you get extended 64-bit data types. There's been some tag-based alarm enhancements, new function block functions, phase manager support, and data preserve download capability. With version 31, you have a much more modern look and feel. All editing windows are now tabbed. That includes logic routines, parameters, trends, AOPs, or add-on profiles, UDTs, or user-defined data types. And they've given you the ability to quickly reorder the way your tabbed windows are, so you can click and drag to put them in the order you want, and a quick close capability. We finally have multi-monitor support. This was a big win with version 31. You can very easily pull off the tabbed windows and place them on your second monitor. Version 31 introduced a new alarming capability. Before we talk about version 31's alarm capability, let's talk about the existing ones. The first type of alarming capability was server-based alarms via the HMI, or FactoryTalk View SE. With server-based alarms, the controller was continuously polled based on the HMI's poll rate. With this type of alarming, the alarms had inaccurate timestamps. The second type of alarming capability introduced was Logix instruction-based alarms. Starting with version 16 of RSLogix 5000, Logix instruction-based alarms were introduced utilizing the ALMD, or digital alarm block, and the ALMA, or analog alarm instruction block. These instructions are evaluated at the controller scan rate. A system with a lot of these instruction-based alarms could eat up a lot of controller memory, and the scan time could be affected. Version 31 adds a new method to manage alarms in the controller called Logix tag-based alarms. It is a much simpler configuration on tags versus programmed via instructions. These alarms are delivered to FactoryTalk USE via FactoryTalk Alarms and Events, and they are delivered to the Panel View 5000 via FactoryTalk Linx. New configured alarms are defined on tags with a periodic evaluation rate. Currently, the lowest rate you can go is 500 milliseconds, but that will soon change. This simplifies workflows inside of Studio 5000 and eliminates extra steps and potential for mismatches. Please note, these tag-based alarms are only supported on the high-performance controllers that were introduced with version 28 of Logix Designer. Those high-performance controllers are the ControlLogix 5580 or L8 controller and the CompactLogix 5380 and 5480 controller. The alarm evaluation is done in a separate core of the processor, which does not affect the scan time. With version 31, they've added a new Alarm Manager section in the controller organizer. This allows you to see all of your alarms and alarm definitions, which we'll talk about in a little bit. These tag-based alarms offer a smaller memory footprint than the instruction-based alarms, making them great for applications with high alarm counts. Bulk generation of alarms via XML import or export is supported. So how do you add an alarm to a tag? Well, you can go into the controller tag browser or the program tag browser, right-click on the tag and select Add Alarm. This pop-up box appears, and you name the alarm for this tag, and you add all the configuration parameters, including a message. Once you hit OK, if you go back to the Alarm Manager and look in the Alarms folder, you will now see that alarm and it's active in the controller. Logix tag-based alarms provide modularity via alarm definitions. Alarm definitions reside on a larger programming construct, like an add-on instruction or a user-defined data type. An example of an alarm definition on an add-on instruction. So let's say you create a motor control add-on instruction with a fail to start, a fail to stop, and an overload fault tag. You can tie alarm definitions to these three tags. Now, whenever you add that motor control add-on instruction into your logic for a motor, you will have those three alarms defined. You can decide on a case-by-case basis if you want to enable or disable any or all of those alarms. Alarm definitions can be modified online, even if they are part of an add-on instruction or user-defined data type. You can also add alarm definitions to system-defined data types, such as the data type associated with a PIDE instruction. This is useful if you get an error bit, you can tie an alarm to that error bit of the PIDE data type. You can also tie it to a module-defined data type, for instance, a PowerFlex drive, so you can alarm on the faults associated with that drive. Tag-based alarms definitely reduce the alarm footprint on controller memory usage when compared to the instruction-based alarms, with at least a 50% reduction in memory per alarm. This slide shows the attributes available with all of the tag-based alarms. This is actually the alarm nomenclature. So you have your tag name, dot, add alarms, dot, and then the alarm name that you gave it, and then you add the attribute. So if I wanted to look at the status of the alarm, this is the status bit, the dot in alarm. You have to manually enter this nomenclature into your FactoryTalk application to be able to use the attribute. However, in Logix, you can browse to the attribute when you are associating a tag with an instruction in your routine. With version 32, they had some customer feedback, and customers said that it would really be nice to know how many alarms are associated with an individual tag. So with version 32, they added a column in the controller tag browser or the program tag browser. The column's called alarms, and it will show you how many alarms is associated with that tag. So in this instance, we have 5 alarms associated with PV_XIC 500. The other enhancement that they made is when you go to the alarms folder under the alarm manager, they added this state column. So you can actually see the status of the alarm in real time without having to double click and looking at the alarm itself. With version 32, they added a new instruction called the alarm set operation. This instruction issues a specific operation to all alarm conditions in a set. These are your options for the operations: acknowledge, reset, enable, disable, and so on. So in my example of a motor control add-on instruction with the fail to start, fail to stop, and overload faults, let's say I had a motor that I took out of service. I could use this ASO and associate it with my motor tag at alarm set and use this disable operation to disable all of those alarms associated with that particular motor. Now we're going to move on to ladder editor enhancements. So they tried to make some enhancements for vertical space. So if you go into your workstation options under ladder editor display, there's a display instruction descriptions, and right now it's checked. What that refers to, if I have an instruction, for instance, this move block, MOV is the name of the instruction, and then this second line is the instruction description. So right now it's displayed. If I uncheck this box, I lose that description and therefore save a little bit on my vertical space. Another way to save on vertical space is they added a feature to show input operands on the left and output operands on the right. So back to my move instruction, if I select that, I now go from a vertical instruction to more of a horizontal instruction. So yet again, another way to save on vertical space. Function editor enhancements. So back in version 30, they changed the default size of a sheet to 11 by 17 landscape. With version 31, they now give us the ability to change that sheet size while online. So if you have to add or expand to a control system, you now have that ability to do it while online. 2 other big enhancements. You can now force I/O tags right from the context menu. So if I right-click on this tag, I can force that input. And then the other big enhancement is I can now change values right from within the function editor. With version 32, one of the enhancements made only for the high-performance controllers, so that's the CompactLogix 5380 and 5480, and the ControlLogix 5580, they added new functions to replace existing instructions. So it has a smaller visual footprint, and these functions are associated with the compare, the compute, and Boolean logic instructions. Before, with the add block, you always had to have a backing tag associated with that function. Now it's just a simpler, easier to troubleshoot add block. Structured text editor enhancements. The structured text editor underwent a major overhaul. We now have a more modernized structured text editor packed with features for productive programming and editing. Some of the features include line numbers and bookmarks, descriptive tooltips and syntax highlighting, multi-line select and mouse scrolling, change and verify bars while making online programming edits, collapsible code segments, And another biggie, inline value monitoring. As you can see, the benefits include increased productivity, efficient code development, and editing capabilities. And then I have a few more productivity enhancements. With version 32, they added 6 new data types: unsigned short integer, unsigned double integer, unsigned integer, unsigned long integer, long real number, and long integer. These data types give you the ability to calculate more precise values with higher resolution, gives you more flexibility to comply with open third-party communication standards such as HART. With version 32, for those of you familiar with user-defined data types, you know that if you create a data type and you download and you realize, oh, I really needed to add a few more tags, tag members to that data type, you actually have to go offline, update your user-defined data type, and download. With version 32, what you can do now is you can create a user-defined data type with extra memory, extra members. So add a couple extra real members, integer members, bool members, and just name them something generic. And you can rename those unused members while editing online. You don't have to do a full download. Also, you can rename tags that are being trended by Logix Designer trending, FactoryTalk Linx or RSLogix software, and the PanaView 5000 HMI. Two other big ones, if you use trends in Logix Designer, you can now do multi-selection, and you can cut, copy, paste, delete, import, export, all on the same trends. And in version 32, you can do a nested delete. So, for instance, this EN2T has several components underneath it, a couple point.io racks. When you can now delete this EN2T module, and it'll give you a pop-up that lets you know before you delete it that this item has 6 sub-items which will also be deleted. Before, if you wanted to delete this EN2T module, you would have to go down into the point.io chassis, remove all the I/O modules associated with that chassis, remove the ANTR module, basically remove everything under it to be able to delete this EN2T. Another enhancement for version 32 is, and this is only for the high performance controllers again, they updated the device web page. So this is kind of what the general web page looks like. You have controller memory usage, you have the task scan times and such. Well, they added some more diagnostics for you. So they've added the key switch position, the controller mode, force status, the controller changelog signature. If you have a GuardLogix controller, now you have the safety signature and lock status all on the web page. You also have the actual processor, controller, and network status indicators that you would see on the front of the processor, and the 4-character message display status. With that message display, they've also added 2 messages, download in progress and aborting download. So now you can access status and fault information without having to have your Studio 5000 software open or go and look at the actual processor itself. As long as you have a connection to the network, you can open up the processor's web page. Also with version 32, they updated the quick watch window. Sorry about that. From the drop-down, you can select a routine to monitor, and it will show all of the tags associated with that routine. Another big one is you can select Quick Watch from the pull-down menu, and you can add the tags that you want to watch and then name that Quick Watch, and that'll be saved for you for future reference. Again, version 32, with all those tabbed windows, Sometimes you get too many windows and you just really want to focus on one. They added the ability to right-click on the tabbed window and select Close All but this. And then with the function block, as far as wire jumps, making it easier to troubleshoot, you can the wire jumps will automatically be inserted at all intersections. And then this is a big one. With version 32.01, that is a minor release, they added the data preserve download capability. Again, it's only supported with the high performance controllers, the 5380, the 5480, and the 5580. The data preserve download feature preserves controller tag values during a download. Online controller tag values are preserved and not overwritten by the offline project's tag values. And the tags can be saved to an XML file. So when you go to do a download, you now have a new tab called Options, and you can select if you want to preserve the online tag values and if you want to back it up to an XML file. You can also restore a subset of values if you wish. So the online tag database image is backed up in case of an interrupted or failed download, and status is added to the download progress display, as well as messages added to the download summary showing what values or how many tags were actually preserved. Now, I'll warn you, this does increase the download time by approximately 25%. So what are preserved? Definitely controller and program scope tags are preserved. User-defined data types are supported, as well as tags associated with add-on instructions. Now you probably guessed you can't preserve your I/O tag values, but for a list of all the data types that are supported, you can refer to the release notes of version 32.01 or above. So with 31 and 32, or around the same time, we have some new integrated architecture support. So we'll focus first on the high performance controllers. Like I mentioned, they've been out since about version 28, 29, depending on the controller. With version 31, they came out with the GuardLogix 5580 controller. Now this controller is unique because you can just buy the safety processor and support a SIL2 PLD safety level. Or you can buy the safety partner in conjunction with the GuardLogix processor to achieve a SIL3 PLE safety level. So this is a little different than the 5570 or L7 controller, where you had to have both of them to be able to implement a safety system. There's 4 catalog numbers available, and those are based on the memory and number of nodes that you're going to communicate with. This new controller also supports the safety instructions for the Kinetix 5700 drive. With the ControlLogix 5580, in version 31, they added analog motion support. So this is great if you have an older ControlLogix system, like with an L6 processor controlling it, and you wanted to upgrade to the 5580 or L8 controller, but you had analog motion modules in your rack. Now you can move to that 5580 processor as long as you update to the latest firmware available for these analog motion modules, the MO2AE, the MO2AS, and the MO2HYD. Along the same lines, the 5580 also supports the SERCOS motion modules, and those are the MO3SE, the MO8SE, the M16SE, and the MO8SEG. Also new with version 31, they introduced the compact GuardLogix 5380 controller. Now this compact GuardLogix only supports a SIL2 PLD safety level, so they haven't come out with the compact GuardLogix with the safety partner. That is due out the end of this coming May. And as you notice, there's a number of part numbers available with motion support or without, and the part numbers based on the amount of memory, the number of local I/O modules, and the number of Ethernet nodes supported. And again, this compact GuardLogix supports those new drive safety instructions with the Kinetics 5700 drive. With version 32, Rockwell introduced the CompactLogix 5480 controller. It is a Logix controller with a Windows 10 IoT enterprise operating system running in parallel, all under one hood. Both run independently of each other. This controller makes it easy to integrate Windows-based software applications, including third-party applications, alongside the control application in a single controller. The 5480 gives you a simplified architecture and machine footprint. It has built-in FactoryTalk Linx OPC communications between the Logix and Windows side. And then just for your reference, Windows 10 IoT is a specialized edition of Windows 10 Enterprise that promises the longest intervals between feature upgrades of any Windows operating system. It's supported with security and stability updates for 10 years. Now, it doesn't have things like Windows Store, Cortana, Edge Browser, OneNote, Calendar, those types of features. But it will run a FactoryTalk VUSE local station or an ME station. So a couple things to note if you look at the processor. So the Logix side has 3 gigabit embedded Ethernet IP ports, and 2 of these ports can be configured for dual IP or DLR. On the Windows 10 side, you get 1 gigabit Ethernet port and 2 USB ports, and then there is a display port that supports standard converters for HDMI, DVI, and VGA displays. And then based on the part number, it will support up to 31 local I/O modules. That's the Compact 5000 I/O family. Part numbers start with 5069. Now let's look at some communication modules that were recently introduced. First up is the 1756 EN4TR, and it is actually supported back to version 24. This is the first Ethernet module that supports SIP security. This is 10 meg, 100 meg, or 1 gigabit speeds that it supports. So if you have an L7 controller and want to have communications on a gigabit network, you can insert this card. It has a higher performance and capacity than the standard 1756 EN2TR. The next slide actually has a comparison between the two. These ports support device level ring, and in the future with a firmware update, it will be support ControlLogix redundancy. It will be able to act as a redundant adapter, and it will support parallel redundancy protocol, or PRP for short. And I'll touch on that with another Ethernet module that I show you. So just for comparison, the EN2TR supports 128 TCP connections, while the EN4TR supports 512. As far as SIP connections, you're limited to 256 for both Class 1 and Class 3. However, the EN4TR supports 1,000 Class 1 connections and 528 Class 3 connections. And then another differentiator is motion axes. The EN2TR only supports 8 axes. The EN3TR supports 128, whereas the new EN4TR supports 256. Also, The 1756 EN2TP module came out within the past year, and it supports Parallel Redundancy Protocol, like I said, PRP for short. The PRP protocol provides seamless failover against failure of any network component with zero recovery time. This module is ideal for process applications where a customer requires a redundant network infrastructure, and it's also ideal for ControlNet media redundancy migrations. The N2TP is included in the ControlLogix Redundancy Kit version 31.052, and it has the same performance and capability as the EN2TR. So with a parallel redundancy protocol network, redundancy is in the end nodes. So here I have two very independent networks, two separate switches. The end nodes are called doubly attached nodes, or DANs for short. So in this example, the DANs are the EN2TPs, here, 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 and here. The DANs attach to both LANs. The switches do not have to be PRP aware, but the switch must support 1506 byte frames. And in this example, the switch that we are showing is the Stratix 5700. So how this works is the source DAN sends the same frame over both LANs. The destination DAN consumes the frame the first time it is received and discards the duplicate when received. A DAN has one MAC address and one IP address. The frames that the DAN sends includes the LAN ID. For more information on this type of network, feel free to contact me. Another new module with the Compact 5000 family is the 5069 serial module. It was introduced with version 31 about a year ago. The 5069 serial module, release 1 firmware, offered generic ASCII and Modbus RTU ASCII communications. With release 2 firmware, which was just recently released, the 5069 serial module also supports DF1 and DH485 communications. This new capability will give users a migration path from older generation CompactLogix controllers, which had built-in serial ports, like the 1769 L35E and the 1768 L45. So now you can migrate to the latest generation 5380 and 5480 CompactLogix controllers. Now the Release 2 firmware supports generic ASCII, Modbus, DF1 and DH485 communications in the local chassis when used with a CompactLogix 5380 and 5480. If you're using the serial module in a remote chassis, it will only support general ASCII and Modbus serial communications, and it must be controlled by a ControlLogix 5580 or a CompactLogix 53 or 5480. Now there's a few restrictions associated with DF1 and DH485 communications, besides just having to be in the local chassis. Communications is only supported on the channel 1 serial port, and the communications through the serial module can only initiate and respond to message instructions of PLC2, PLC3, PLC5, and SLIC message types. DF1 DH485 communications is not able to route to and from other networks, and you're not able to upload, download, or go online with a CompactLogix 5380 or 5480 controller from a PC connected on the DH485 or DF1 network. Moving on to I/O modules. So I kind of like to show this slide just to show the breadth of offering by Rockwell as far as I/O families. So we have our ControlLogix 1756 family. We have our Flex 1794 family, as well as our next generation Flex 5000, which I will talk about in a few slides coming up. We have our 1719 I/O for hazardous area locations. We have our 1715 redundant I/O. We have our dynamics condition monitoring modules, 1444. We have our compact 1769 I/O and our next generation compact 5000 or 5069 family. We have our point I/O 1734, and we have our on-machine armor block modules. Part numbers start with the 1732. I would like to point out that prior to version 31, the only safety that was offered was in point I/O and then this guard armor block. If you notice, we have a couple new families that have safety introduced into them. You can tell by the red coloring of the front face of the module. So I'm going to talk about those. First up, new to Studio 5000 version 32, we now have ControlLogix Safety I/O modules. We have a 16-channel DC input safety module and an 8-channel DC sourcing or bipolar safety output module. These modules can only be used in conjunction with the high-performance controllers, but it's a great addition to the ControlLogix platform. We can now have safety I/O modules right in the local rack. Prior to this, if you had a GuardLogix 5570 or L7 controller, you were limited to the point I/O safety modules or the guard armor blocks, just like I alluded to on that prior slide. So you had to do this via a remote connection. Flex 5000. This I/O family is the next generation of Flex. Catalog numbers start with 5094. They were introduced with version 31 as far as standard I/O modules, and then in version 32, the safety I/O modules were introduced. Flex 5000 I/O works with, you can probably guess it, only the high-performance controllers, so the ControlLogix 5580 and the CompactLogix 5380 and 5480 controllers. Flex 5000 shares the same size footprint as its predecessor, the Flex 1794 family, but it is not interchangeable. It's a rugged design and supports a -40 to 158 degree Fahrenheit temperature range. The Ethernet adapter shown here comes in 4 catalog numbers. They support 1 gigabit embedded switch technology for device level ring, linear topologies, and star topologies. And it also supports the parallel redundancy protocol, which I explained with the EM2TP. You select the Ethernet adapter based on the desired copper or fiber media you would like and how many I/O modules you would like to attach to the adapter, up to 8 or up to 16. Just like the 1794 series, this Flex 5000 can be mounted both horizontally and vertically. This high-performance digital I/O modules, they support less than 1 millisecond screw-to-screw response time and up to 200 microsecond RPI. The modules also offer counter functionality, input events, and scheduled outputs. The analog I/O modules support a less than 5 millisecond screw-to-screw response time and up to 200 microsecond RPI. Analog modules support 16-bit resolution, support individual channel alarms and scaling, as well as current sourcing for the analog output modules. Please note, you must order a base, the appropriate removable terminal block, and the desired I/O module. One other nice feature is that these modules can be removed and inserted under power. There is also an XT version of the Flex 5000 family, which basically gives you a conformal coding on the modules, and they're supported in class G1, G2, and G3 environments. There's a QR code on all modules, which gives you module identification. It's kind of nice for those removable terminal blocks when you can't see the part number because it's either on the side or behind or on the back of the terminals. The input and output modules also feature dual color LEDs for status and diagnostics, stair-step design for ease of wiring, and they will be coming out with an interconnect cable for bank expansion. So let's say you have 8 I/O modules and your panel won't fit that width. You can use the cable and break that up to 4 and 4 in 2 rows. This slide just shows the family offering. So this release has been available since version 31. Here's showing the 4 Ethernet adapter options. There's a universal analog input which supports RTD and thermocouple. Our safety modules, we have a 16-channel input, a 16-channel output, and this is the only one of its kind, a 4-point relay output safety module. Just released, we have AC input and output modules in 16-channel, and we have 32-channel DC input and output modules, as well as a universal analog input and output module supporting HART. I have a number of customers that were waiting on this to come out. So we still have to wait for the interconnect cables, and then there will also be a serial communication module. The Compact 5000 I/O family, or 5069 platform, has been around since version 28. However, I want to point out that the safety modules were just released in version 31. We have an 8-channel safety input and an 8-channel safety output module. So just like the Flex 5000, you have high-speed backplane packet transfer rate. It has a 27% reduction in width when you compare it to its 1769 predecessor, and it supports the gigabit embedded switch technology for device level ring, linear, or star topologies. Provides better accuracy and time stamping of inputs and scheduled outputs, and again, must be used with the high performance controllers. And then this slide just shows you the modules available. Again, one I want to point out is the universal analog input module, which will support voltage, current, RTD, or temperature. So Premier integration. Rockwell has built in a consistent user experience across the next generation 5000 series of I/O families. We have standard data structures on a per channel basis. We have per channel selection of scaling and alarms, and additional diagnostics for both the module and channel. And then we have time stamping with precision time protocol for I/O change of state and diagnostics and events. So I'd like to talk about a couple of other additional items. FactoryTalk Linx communications. In FactoryTalk View Studio version 10, RSLogix Enterprise became FactoryTalk Linx. So when version 31 of Logix Designer came out, they added an option to choose FactoryTalk Linx as your communication software. So if you go to communications, there's this new select communication software where you have the ability to toggle between RSLogix or FactoryTalk Linx. Currently, Logix Designer still defaults to RSLogix Classic, but in version 33, when that comes out at the end of this year, I've been told that it will default to FactoryTalk Linx. The new FactoryTalk Linx network browser interface control enhances productivity. You can add and change an Ethernet driver configuration right from within the browser that pops up when you select Who Active. You don't have to exit out of Logix Designer and open up FactoryTalk Linx to edit or add to a driver. One thing to note is FactoryTalk Linx only supports Ethernet and USB communications. It offers a large 4,000 byte connection for download operations. And then I just wanted to show you what the browser looks like if you're not familiar with it. It really looks similar to RSLinx. You still have the auto browse, enable, disable. Here's your add driver. So you can create a driver just like the Ethernet IP driver in RSLinx, or you can add an Ethernet devices driver similar to RSLinx. The one nice thing when creating that devices driver, you can type in a range of IP addresses or add the devices by name rather than having to do each address individually. You can also copy and paste a group of IP addresses from Excel into FactoryTalk Linx or out of FactoryTalk Linx and into Excel. It has a nice path breadcrumb, so as you drill down into your backplane, it shows the levels that you're going down and you can back out to an upper level. You have zooming capability, which you didn't have before. You can also select, there's a selection for automatic EDS upload. So if you don't have a particular EDS file for an object with RSLinx, you had to manually go and upload each EDS file individually. Now, when it goes out and searches across the network, if an EDS file is not on your laptop and you've selected the automatic EDS file upload, it'll automatically do that for you. You can also search for devices on the network. So let's say you're interested in how many L62s you have on your network, so you know how many you need to migrate. You can just type in 1756 L62 and it will only show those processors on your network. You can also anchor. So let's say you have a large number of devices on your network, but you only want to concentrate on a particular chassis. You can anchor right from this Ethernet module and it'll blow everything away except for the backplane associated with this. Just allows you to focus more easily on a particular section of your network. ControlFlash Plus. ControlFlash Plus, we're at version 2 now. It's the next generation firmware update tool with a modern and simple user interface for better firmware management. You guys are all familiar with ControlFlash used with RSLinx Classic. This will coexist, so you can install both of them on your laptop. ControlFlash Plus uses FactoryTalk Linx as its communication software. And so as you go and you browse the network, it'll show all of the devices, what your current firmware version is, and the nicest feature, if you're connected to the internet, it'll automatically connect to the Rockwell Product Compatibility and Download Center, which I had mentioned before, and it will show you all of the available revisions for that associated device, with important notices for those firmware and release notes associated with that firmware. It also gives you lifecycle status of what your current firmware is at. So right from this window, you can download from the PCDC the firmware that you want to install. Just makes it much easier to manage that firmware. It also allows for multiple devices to be updated at the same time. So let's look at that. This tool will always attempt to flash up to 20 devices with the following exceptions. So parents are always flashed before descendants, and devices with 2 Ethernet ports, like this EN2TR shown here, gets flashed before peers. So let's say these are I/O modules. Devices on linear topologies are flashed sequentially one at a time, as well as device level rings. And then in the case of this switch, all devices are flashed at the same time. The tool automatically determines the correct order. And then one more thing I'd like to talk about is FactoryTalk Updater. With version 32 of Logix Designer, this FactoryTalk Updater tool gets automatically installed. What's nice about this is when you bring up this FactoryTalk Updater, it shows you all of the Rockwell automation software products that are installed on your laptop. It gives you the installed version, and if you're connected to the PC DC, it will show you what is the latest version available or the latest patches available. So I think it's a great tool, one-stop shop. You get to see what's installed and what you could move to if you wanted to stay current. So that's all I have for you today. I really want to thank you for attending. I appreciate the time you took out of your day to spend with me, and I hope that you learned a few things. If you would like more information on anything discussed today, please feel free to contact me, or you can go to the McNaughton-McKay website. So let's see if we have any questions that came across, and I can try to answer them.
Thank you, Amy. We do have a few questions. I believe you are able to view those now, but I'll go ahead and read out our first one here, and then we can work through them. We have 3 altogether. So our first question is from Nathan, and he asks, where do I download the application code manager libraries, like the machine builder library?
So you can download that from the PC-DC. I think that you just have to search for application library, but I would be happy to get the specifics and send that to Nathan.
Great. We have 2 questions from Utsav. He asks, from processor webpage, am I able to monitor or read PLC tag values, same as TIA portal?
No, you are not able to monitor or read PLC tag values. You can monitor the I/O modules in the chassis. You can browse the chassis, but not the tag values from the processor web page.
Okay, and one other question from him. Can I use Micro 800 PLC and HMI as Panel View 7+? Can both be compatible for communication?
Yes, I do believe that you can use the Micro 800 with a PanaView Plus 7, and I would be happy to supply him with more information related to that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Amy, for your presentation today. Thank you to all of our live viewers for your time and for joining us. We hope this session was informative and engaging for you. For those who were registered to attend the session in person and received the live stream invitation via email, we would love to hear your feedback on a brief survey that will be coming your way very soon. And remember, please to subscribe to our McNaughton-McKay YouTube channel for more industry content. And we look forward to seeing you live again soon. Have a great day, everyone.